I have about a week left in Japan before I go back to the UK, just for a little holiday, just for about 2 weeks. But I figured I wouldn't let that stop me, and we're still going to go on a little adventure today. I have 4.5 hours worth of driving to do, which is kind of crazy. But today, we're going to a UNESCO World Heritage Site in Gifu Prefecture. Whoops, just forgot my camera. We have arrived in Shirakawa-Go. It is a village in the northwest of Gifu Prefecture. It's a pretty isolated village that has tried to maintain some history. You can see the sort of mountains in the background there. This place was kept separate from most of the other villages around it, just due to geography really, and so it's managed to maintain its identity a bit better than some of the other areas that are in the region. One of the things that it's got is these gasho style buildings, and they're supposed to represent, with their thatched roofs, praying hands. So let's see if that's sort of the impression that we get from these. So you can see here the thatched styled roofing. These are some of the first stores you might come across. That's a cafe and that's an omiyage store, I'm pretty sure. But what we're going to do first, we're going to go across the road to this area because it looks like there is sort of like a mock village. So I'm going to go see what's happening over here. This gateway also in this thatched roof style. So I'm not sure how much maintenance this sort of requires. It seems like maybe a lot. So the area I'm in now is a open air museum. And actually most of the buildings here were not from Shirakawa-Go originally. They are from a nearby village just down the road that were moved in order to maintain and preserve this area. And so there's a small admission fee. I think it's 600 yen to get into this section. And I think various parts of the village have their own admission fees for different museums that you can get access to. But I love a museum. And luckily, because this seems to be quite a touristy area after its UNESCO World Heritage Site status, there is quite a lot of English here. So, for instance, basic concept, to live in the steep mountains is to live in paradise on earth. Even when the lamplight grows dim, we talk fondly of the unending good old times. The young men don't leave the village, but stay on and support the elderly. So, yeah, and I think this village, this area was famous for sericulture, which is also what Nanmoku was pretty good at, which is harvesting silkworms and grubs. I immediately feel cooler in here, which is great. So these are old newspapers from the time that people were evacuated from Kazura village, which, as you can see on this map, Shirakawa-Go is here and Kazura is up here. So they were moved these buildings over here, but most of the people in the village had to leave. And so they've preserved them in this area. And there's a short video on here about, I think, life in the village, but it is all in Japanese, I think. Oh, fantastic. So here you can see UNESCO World Heritage Site, and this is a model of a gasho styled house, and this is actually a model of the tallest one, I believe, in the village. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stories tall. Most of them are not this tall. Let's see if I can get the whole thing in a frame here. Over here you can see one of the reasons that the buildings were built like this, and that's because this area, this region of Gifu, gets a lot of snowfall, and so these buildings are built with these big roofs to support the weight of all that snow and to not be damaged by the snow. So maybe the best time to visit this village is actually in the winter, but I imagine it's probably a lot busier because that's what it is famous for. You can see here again the village covered in snow. Most of the buildings facing the same general direction, I think, as well. One of the most beautiful parts of history for me is that this building in front of me is a shed. And, you know, you look at your own tools and things like this and think of a shed. It doesn't seem that important, that relevant. But this is a cultural property now. It's being preserved. It is a piece of history. And it's those mundane things that become how we understand the people of the past, right? This was used to store clothes and rice stocks and wine. Well, rice wine probably. But they've taken the time to move it from that original village down to here and preserve it and maintain that thatched roof. It's not open, you can't go inside, but it is incredible that so much effort has gone to maintaining such a ordinary thing. I say that this is a photo spot. See if we can figure out why. Got a nice view of a bus up there. Some of the Gasho style houses on the opposite side of the river, which is where we'll be staying today. And a river down there as well. It's okay, but the kind of big tree in the middle does not give a very good view. So with this, the water is coming from up there along and then down to spin this water wheel. So presumably something would have gone on inside to use that mechanical motion. We've got some really, really big barrels here. There was a strong smell in this room as well. You can see actually that a lot of this wood is probably quite new. And let's see, the mechanical motion here. Okay, so it's a mill. And you can see here where it would probably hit this piece of wood, lifting it up and then dropping the weight back down. So it's not a grinding mill, which is pretty common in Europe with a stone. It's a sort of beating mill, I guess. Presumably for milling, I think probably rice. So apparently this building is for wealthy farmers who can afford to dry out their rice in a building like this, and it contains lots of different tools that might have been used sort of at the time. You know, we're not going too far back in history, but we are going into the past here. So you can see here sort of animal pulled devices. What are these called? Plows. Animal pulled plows and whatever that thing is to churn up the dirt to allow for better planting, you know, things like that. And we look like we've got a really ancient piece of machinery over here. Very rusted. I could not even begin to tell you what this is supposed to do, but it seems to have a few different systems going on at once. Okay, so it mentioned outside that this building might have been used for handicrafts. So it looks like we've got some straw clothing up there. Some straw sandals, bags, boots, baskets, incredibly creepy doll. So this is the sort of device that they might use to create these big planes of straw. What does this say? In Shirakawa, placement of the foundation stones is called ishibakachi. Historically, people used to use a timber frame or tower to raise a pile driver and release it to strike or set the foundation stones. A special song was sung for the occasion of striking the stone. Still performed until the 1950s, the process of ishibakachi was the first of several important group activities required in the construction of Gasho-style housing. Also here you can see this process being enacted as well. It looks like this is the sort of clothing they might wear at that time. Some very old photographs, very old history here. Now this device, I'm pretty sure, would be used to hang pots or clothes above your fireplace, which is built into the floor. And how everything doesn't set on fire, I have no idea. But you can see the wood here has probably been blackened to not set fire. I'm pretty sure that's what that means if you pre-burn the wood. And in here in the tatami room, maybe some sort of family shrine. So we've got some sort of prayer pillow, and then some very, very well decorated shrine artifacts, which I don't want to get too close to, but really beautiful. I wonder who would sort of have one of these in their home. I know people tend to have a family shrine historically, but who could afford something like this one? Hachiman Shrine. So this one is a tea house. You're not allowed to go inside, but you've got to take your shoes off. See here, actually, the ceiling is very low. We've got some kind of a wardrobe area, sort of back entrance, and this door, let me look down here. This level is probably about where my mouth is. So it's pretty low down, pretty small. We've got a small lantern, obviously no tea ceremony in here at the moment, and actually a very interestingly cut piece of tatami here. Now, apparently this one is the oldest, or thought to be the oldest, gasho style building in Shirakawa-Go, and it's from the mid 18th century. So this building is, what, 200 years old, nearly 250 years old according to the dating. But I do think that this house has undergone some punishment recently, because there was some tarp on the back, but I don't particularly feel the need to show you the damage when I can show you the beauty of it instead. Next to it we've got some sort of a workhouse shed, and then what looks to be a lumber shed as well. Right, I want to worm my way back round this way, because as you can see there, it looks like there's another gasho style building, but it doesn't have any walls unlike the others. I wonder what's going on in there. It's also in this middle of this beautiful moat with sort of green algae water. Cross over these stones, I think. Okay, so this is a barn that would be used to house people temporarily if their house burnt down, which probably, given the materials used, happened a lot. We can go inside and you can see much more temporary structure in here than the other buildings we've seen, but they've still elevated this platform. You can see this area down here where sort of, I suppose, dirtier things would happen, and that's why we'd have to take our shoes off. And then this area up here where probably your sleeping and general living would happen. And this one actually has a door out through the other side which overlooks a wonderful little sort of waterfall. What I think is so wonderful about these houses is that they have so many entrances. There's one here, there's a big one over there, there's the one that I came in through, which really just opens up the space. process of harvesting silkworms and silk. I think these sorts of platforms are where the grubs would be. And maybe where you dry them out? I don't know, I'm not sure. It says on the signs, but it's all in Japanese. Third floor of one of these gasho style buildings. There's a little peephole over there. Should we go and look through the little peephole? I think it's okay. It's trees. So I just went to my hotel to ask about parking. Basically, I have to leave the parking lot by 5. The roads here open at 4, and I have to park in the parking area by 6. Something like that. And that's when dinner is. And they gave me a discount coupon for the museum I just went to. So if you're going to come here, go to your hotel first, because you get discounts for that and the onsen, I think. I think, despite the tourists and the occasional car, this place is so incredibly peaceful if you just stop and wait a moment. The wind is blowing and I've got the rice grass kind of dancing in the wind behind me. One of the first pieces of food I had during the day is a dish in Japan called kakigori, or shaved ice. It's a very lovely summertime treat that we just don't really have in the UK. I'm familiar that shaved ice is something in America, but not so much in the UK. This shaved ice was shaved fresh, and then they put some mango flavouring on the top. And other than dropping half of it because I'm an idiot, I thought it was delicious and so refreshing. So right now I'm walking towards the observatory deck, which is just a little ways up. You can get a shuttle bus for, I think the lady at the hotel said 300 yen, but why do that when I can walk? Especially when I have so much time. Because I'm staying here tonight, I don't really feel the pressure to explore everything super quickly. And the onsen's open till 9, so there's something to do in the evening. But it is so beautiful already. The mountains, the fields, the gasho houses. It's absolutely stunning. Found a small, quiet wooded area. With a little shriny temple-y thing. So it seems to use curved beams of wood for the strength to hold up against the snow, but that single floorboard there is a little concerning. And then this way we've got single men's and servants' rooms. Watch your head. Here's some boxes. Obviously don't touch them. And over here, watch your head again, is some sort of device. Tools for measuring weight. Interesting. So it's an old set of Japanese scales, I guess. And there's also a window to downstairs. Fire watch window. Now imagine it's 1750. You live out in the sticks. Japan's been isolated for about 100 years, 150 years. And this is your life. Sound of insects, rice growing in the fields. It's far too hot, you've got no air conditioning. But it's simple. Electric fan. And kind of a screen. Toothbrush. And something. A mat to put your belongings on. A table. This is boiled water, I think. Or just normal water. Tissues, a mirror, a document you've got to sign, and a snack. I don't know where I sleep though. So this place is apparently called a minshuku, which is a guest house, a private house that they rent out to people and that people can have and spend time in. It's more of a, you get a room and then there is some common amenities out there. So this is my room at the moment. And yeah, it's interesting. I've not been in one of these sorts of places before. I think dinner's at 6. It's currently 4:30. So a little bit of time to wait before dinner time. And I think breakfast is at 7:30 actually. So I need to wake up early, which is fine because I need to leave town at about 9, sort of before 9 o'clock. The road closes. A bed has arrived. At the Gasho-style inn, I had a collection of food in a very, very Japanese style where they bring out many separate, smaller dishes for you to enjoy. There was some fresh river fish, there were some pickled vegetables, there were some fried vegetables, 2 types of soup, green tea, rice, tofu, and some hita beef as well. She did provide me with a small sort of cup of sake. Unfortunately, I had to say, I'm sorry, I don't drink alcohol, but she didn't seem to mind too much. And during this, I actually met another group of travelers, a large group, 5 people who were traveling from Argentina. So I managed to learn a little bit about Argentinian culture and customs while I was there. The next day, I went to the town of Takayama. It's a nearby town which also seemed to be fairly popular with tourists. One of the places I decided to visit was a morning market to see if I could find any omiyage for my trip back home to the UK, and I managed to pick up 1 or 2 little things. I visited a Showa-era museum which demonstrated many of the goods largely from the later Showa period. It's the police. I have no idea who those people are. Hiromi-Go and Mizue Takada. I suppose they were famous in the Showa era. Mind your head. Ah, these are some retro clocks. Oh. And a sumo plate. Daihatsu midget. The door opens backwards. Whoa, that is... Not sure I'd want to drive that. A camera store, maybe? Or just a display of cameras? One's been set up. Can you see anything? Oh. I don't know if the rooms would actually be this tall or if that's just for something else. Hello, me. What is that? Oh, look! The TV's got one of those magnifying glasses over it to make it ever so slightly bigger. Used to have that on the Game Boy Advance, I think, maybe? What is this? A brain extraction machine. Look at all those retro video games over there as well. Oh, that over there. And some retro Gundam. Whoa. Old printing bits, all in Japanese. Oh, a classroom. This is good. So this is school lunch. Wow, some typewriters. And some xylophones. And an abacus. Hello children, today we're going to learn maths. I have no idea what's going on. So it seems like that museum has a deal with another museum, or they're run by the same company. So we're now going to go to the retro museum before stopping off for lunch. And that was really good. It was like a step into the past, but a different kind of past than the one we experienced yesterday. So, you know, I really appreciate this opportunity to see Japan from these different perspectives. I wasn't here in the sort of Showa era, but of course I wasn't. I don't think I was born yet. So that era, it's not really something I've experienced in the UK either. You know, technology was really starting to boom when I was born. So it's so interesting to see how things were different in the past. That's a very cool looking bus. Unfortunately, one of my favourite experiences from the trip I simply didn't record. I went to a restaurant called Heiandaku in Takayama City. It was fairly easy to find, but you did have to reserve in advance. I booked it around 2 weeks prior, and they only accept 2 customers at any one time, because there are only 2 people behind the counter, and they have to take care with certain things like dietary restrictions. It's one of the few restaurants in Japan that you'll find that actually takes care of those, accepts vegetarians and accounts for them, makes dishes for people with celiac, etc. I don't have dietary restrictions, so that's not why I went. I just wanted to try the Japanese-style Chinese food. And if the sign outside the door is anything to go by, they've got a really great sense of humour. But I thought, oh, it will only be me and possibly one other customer. This would be a perfect chance to ask if I could film. However, I was so caught up in the moment that I actually just forgot to film. I didn't even take any pictures of the food because I was enraptured by the experience. I managed to practice some Japanese, they managed to practice some English. It was a really great time and the food was honestly amazing. I think the experience overall was well worth the money, which was slightly more expensive than most of the meals I've had in Japan, but well worth it.